All right. Welcome back to week 2 of the post game pod for the Behind the Back podcast featuring the Philadelphia Eagles. I am Marcos Conan Negron, and let me tell y'all, it's 8:54 on Monday night, and I thought at 8:25 I thought the Eagles were going to walk away victorious in this one. With 2 minutes left in the game, the Eagles had supposedly sealed the deal. They had every opportunity to seal the game, and they dropped literally the opportunity to win this game. And it sucks because up until that point, the Eagles did a really good job of responding to Atlanta and any scores that they had. And I thought overall this was a good game by our guys. And when you come into this game, the Eagles found out on Saturday that A.J. Brown was not going to be a part of this game and that it's reported he might be out a couple weeks. And that's a huge blow. And A.J. Brown is such a huge part to this piece and to this team in terms of how much attention he draws, which opens up space for everybody else. I thought, Devontae Smith had a good game, Jalen had a good game, Saquon had a good game. But when it really came down to it, when we look back and, Ben and I are going to talk about this, when I have my moments of the game here, these were moments I didn't think I was going to have to talk about after the Eagles did all the right things to get themselves the lead. And I think if there's a lot of disappointing factors now that it's a loss, right? When it's a win, there was going to be some negativity, but takeaways of a team that had better functional issues. They were running the offense more functionally this time, right? No fumbles between Cam or Jalen. Jalen seemed in control the whole time. The pocket was clean. He was making good decisions. And Saquon was getting on the ground early. He was pushing the ball. They were doing a really good job of establishing the run early. But if there was one thing that was killing us on the offensive side, it was penalties, because there was a lot of them. There was 3 offensive illegal man down the field, and there was 2 holding calls, and all those happened in crucial moments of the game where the Eagles were driving. Now, they were able to recover on a few of those. I thought when I evaluate a guy like Jalen, right, I think overall this year what we're seeing is the passing numbers are really way down on average. But I thought Jalen did a great job of being the dynamic Jalen that we saw back in 2022. He got 183 yards through the air, and he had 84 yards or 85 yards on the ground, which was huge. And he had a couple huge runs in this game that really was it was backbreaking, and it seemed like Jalen was in control all game. He played as good as a game, and it was clean until the very end. I thought Saquon Barkley made huge plays, and he was controlling the ground game. He helped us get big runs until the end. Devontae Smith did a really good job, but there was also a crucial play that, had Jalen thrown the ball a little bit better, who knows, but it's in his hands. Defender makes, I think it was Jesse Bates, made a good play in the end zone. That could change the course of this game. Nick Sirianni goes for it early in the game on a 4th and 4, and we don't get it. Would have been 7-3 had we got it, but we chose not to get those 3 points. That could be a thing, right? Because the thing I was going to come into this pod, especially had the Eagles won, was the defense, man. Like, the defense is still a problem. And I didn't see anything that was encouraging from the defense today. Our run defense was horrific. Our pass defense was not much better. And especially when it came down to crunch time, right? Big drives where you really got to have it. The Eagles, went 2 and 3 on those last 3 possessions for Atlanta. And this was a game that when especially in the second half, you could tell right away by the end that there were going to be very few possessions. Both teams were executing really well on the ground and making use of their quick pass game and getting yak yards But the Eagles' run defense was very discouraging for me. And on top of that, our pass rush was non-existent. It picked up a little bit towards the end there, right? But by then, Kirk was already in a groove. But the whole game, Kirk was standing in a very clean pocket. He didn't have to move. And it was really frustrating to just watch. Like, we invested money in Bryce Huff. We need Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis to step up more in those situations. And it was just so frustrating. This was a game that both teams played really cleanly. No team could really get a turnover, and the Eagles just didn't come out on top. And it came down to a turnover and a drop. And it's hard. Like, when I really I'm trying to piece this together, I'm still pretty frustrated in this one because the whole second half, after the first quarter, the Eagles did everything right. Then their defense did a really good job of holding the Falcons to not having touchdowns. There was field goals when there should have been touchdowns. And I was going to praise the defense for that. But man, when you got to have it, Kirk Cousins with a minute 30 left with no timeouts he drove up the field in 4 plays. Like you can't do that. Like, that was reminiscent of the Seattle game last year where Seattle, Drew Lock just scored. Every play was just a big gain. And it sucks. It was disheartening to see just the defense fold. Because they've done such a good job of bending and not breaking so far this season, and they broke real bad at the end there. But none of that happens without the Saquon Barkley drop. Sucks. It was 3rd and 3. The Eagles had gotten a first down off the 2-minute warning. The Falcons were out of timeouts, and the Eagles just needed a first down to end the game. And had they not got it, they would have been able to run down more clock. They would have been able to get points off that. And they ran a perfect. And listen, so here's the question of play calling, right? Do you just run the ball when Saquon's been doing really well all game? He had 95 yards. It was only about 4 yards to carry, but at the end there, he was doing a great job getting the ball going and pushing. So do you just run the ball? Or do you make the play that they made? Because they ran a play action. Saquon was wide open. Jalen Hurts hit him in the hands, and he drops it. And this is the hard part, right? I hate talking about this because that was the moment of the game. And I have a few others now that I have to reevaluate going into the pod, because those moments that were negative, there are going to be moments that stick out that cost us this game. But the only thing that's going to be talked about is this drop from Saquon. And I've been praising Saquon since he's got here, and it's only game 2. It's only week 2. But to lose like that, when if you catch that, it's game over. Nothing else would have happened after that. And it sucks because the Eagles did everything right. They fought, scratched, and clawed to get to the position that they were, up 21-15. And this one stings, because the problem is, when we look forward, we got the red hot New Orleans Saints next on the road. This was the home opener. This was the Nick Foles retirement game. Jason Kelce was in the broadcast booth. The vibes were there. And man, we just sold. It's hard. I tried to, if I had to, when I look at this, it's hard to give game balls out. I don't even think I can. And it's not because everyone who had a game ball worthy game made a horrible error at the end. Right? Like, CJ Gardner-Johnson was horrible in this game. But he also wasn't. He also made the 4th down stop in the middle of the 4th quarter that we thought was going to be the Falcons' last drive. Without that play, the Eagles aren't in the spot that they're in. Jalen Hurts, kick ass. He played a really good game today. Super consistent, super clean. until the last possession, where he throws it over to Devontae when he wasn't open, and Jesse Bates just picks him. It was a horrible decision. Like, he was so good. He was literally so good until that moment. And I would have given him a game ball. Saquon, over 100 scrimmage yards. He was consistent. He was aggressive. He helped. But then the drop. So it's hard. And I can't, and I, like, CJ was, and that was like, CJ Gardner-Johnson gave up a huge touchdown earlier in the game. And that's something that, when I'm thinking about these game balls, I'm thinking, who really stood out? And these guys did. But if it wasn't for their errors, this game, we'd be 2-0. And we'd be 2-0, a good 2-0, when a lot of teams fell this weekend, like Ben had mentioned in his post game pod. Like, all these good teams fell to underdogs, and they lost games they shouldn't have. And just because all the good teams lost doesn't mean you should join them. And had we not had those penalties, had we not dropped the ball, like, this is tough. It's tough. It's just a few moments for the Eagles, because overall this was a relatively good game. Outside of the penalties, of course, we had way too many penalties. And the defensive line, we weren't able to generate pressure. They were running all over us. Like, there's a lot of negatives to take from this game now. And these are going to be the questions that are going to be talked about over the next couple days. And we have a tough matchup on Sunday on limited rest. It's just a day, but when you play a game like this, and then you have to go on the road against a red-hot team, it's going to make things a lot tougher. And we'll break that down and on our regular pod here on Wednesday. But I gotta tell you, man, I'm disappointed. It's frustrating to lose like this. I think when we talk about losses, it's all about, you can take solace in how you lose, or you can feel worse in how you lost. This is an in-between thing for me, because had we won, I would have been feeling really good about this team, even if it was another close game. You're without your star wide receiver, and the offense took a while to find its rhythm. And I also think if there's one encouraging thing to take away from the offensive side of the ball, is that I think they kind of figured out what they want to do moving forward. You can't rely on Jalen to give you 85 yards, but he played his ass off today and got down and dirty. But the Eagles are going to have to find more ways to attack, especially a team like New Orleans, who is a tougher defensive foe than the Falcons. And the Falcons did a good job. They stole the game. They stole the game the Eagles should have stole. And it's frustrating. That's all I can really say. I mean, I have a lot more to say, and I have a lot more I really wanted to say, but I think this is a good place to cap it off, because there's going to be a lot of questions now. And I am a little bit worried. We got two tough teams. The NFC South is all of a sudden surprisingly decent. So we need the Eagles, if they really want to, stay in the race this year. The NFC might just be a little bit stronger than everybody anticipated. So we'll see how that goes. But I think we're going to call it here. It's hard, man. I'm still upset. And I just know that all I'm going to be seeing tomorrow when this is up is just, Saquon drop, and it's going to be disappointing. But hopefully this team has been through adversity before. It's going to be moments like these that'll make them better. And I believe they'll rebound. So we'll see what happens next. All right, guys, this was the post-game pod for the Philadelphia Eagles for Week 2 on the BTB Pod feed. You can hit us up at behindthebackpod13@gmail.com. Hit us up on any of our social medias. The links to each are down in the description. You can catch Ben and I on Wednesday as we break down a little bit more from what we saw in both of our teams losing this week, and what we can look forward to for Week 3. All right, y'all. Talk to you next week. Peace.